Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Dr. Loredana Shapson is a licensed pharmacist turned holistic health practitioner who empowers women to heal from the inside out. As the founder of Life Mod Solutions, she specializes in gut health, hormonal balance, and whole body wellness using natural root cause approaches. After overcoming her own health challenges, she now helps others reclaim their energy, vitality, and clarity through personalized coaching, nutritional therapy, and detox support. Dr. Loredana, thank you.
It is a mouthful, I'll give you that.
Thank you so much for being on my show. Oh, it's
Oh,
so
my
nice to
pleasure.
meet you. And we were just sharing, listeners, we were just sharing that I feel like well, first off, I feel like I know her. And then we just found out we both are due pretty soon here. And so
Yes,
and we're wearing almost the same colors today. So it
I
was meant
know.
to be. And how exciting. I've heard you on other podcasts and I'm like, oh, I really love her energy. And I'm going to just have a great conversation. So it's an honor to have you on my show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to share some new health information related to wellness with your whole group of listeners because I love what you do, helping women change their mindset and be more positive. And I think a missing piece that a lot of people aren't talking about is how their health can actually impact their mindset and how they think and their mental health. So I'm excited to dive in with you today.
Yes, and I was just letting you know that it's been such a long time since I've had any health experts on my show, so you don't even know how thrilled I am. I'm excited. And your story, I mean, from pharmacist to holistic healer, I mean, it's so inspiring. Can you just go ahead and walk us through that transition? And what prompted you to leave conventional medicine and looking at like the root causes of illness?
Yeah, such a great question. I mean, we all have our own stories, right?
Yeah.
So I was one of those patients that was in the medical system. And even though I had pharmacy training and I was a pharmacist, I was stuck. I couldn't get my health conditions healed and repaired by the medical system. I was on lots of medications, different things like having high blood pressure. I was losing a patch of hair. I was having recurrent bacterial infections, particularly bacterial vaginosis, which is the one that causes a fishy odor down there for ladies. Very embarrassing. And it was a continual wheel of try this antibiotic, take this, and not getting better. On the other side of that, as a pharmacist and being a worker in this field, I saw a really unhealthy pattern. More and more people on medications, and then they were getting younger and younger and younger. And that was really alarming. And when I got into pharmacy, I said, I'm going to help people. I'm going to fix myself and fix others. And then once I got into it, I said, wait a minute, this isn't actually fixing people. It's handling the situation and managing disease, but it's not really reversing it or getting to the root issues of what's causing it. So that's kind of when I started to question everything since I was in pharmacy school. And I went to school to do functional nutrition. And then I did some muscle testing, which is energy work. And now I basically do what I did as a pharmacist, but I use food, I use supplements, and I use lifestyle modifications to make people feel better. And then in addition to that, one of the biggest things that really happened to me is I had a lot of gut issues. I had IBS, I had bloating, constipation, acid reflux. Foods would trigger me. I would drink water and bloat as if I was 9 months pregnant. And it was extremely frustrating. A doctor put me on an antibiotic and then I got worse. And so I said, forget it, I'm done. And with my training and education, I was able to research what is causing my gut issues. And so as I started to heal myself, I started to learn the tricks. And then I had a practice and I started seeing in my practice, everybody had a gut problem. Everybody had IBS. Everybody had a digestive issue. What's going on here? And then I started to really focus in on that. And here I am today, 4 or 5 years later. I'm specializing in gut health and IBS and helping people get rid of their digestive issues.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I was just sharing with you that I myself was diagnosed as a little girl as having IBS, and
Mm.
it but honestly, I don't believe that was the case. I think I was just going through something emotionally that was triggering my gut. Like,
Yeah.
I was anxiety was stored there, and then later on it moved into my chest, and it was just horrible.
Mm.
But many people still think that gut health is just about digestion, but as we know, it's so much more. It's like our second brain, right? Once we do fix the gut,
Yes.
yeah, we fix everything. I also have a 9-year-old who's going to turn 10 next month. and he had some stomach issues and we just couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, you know what? Let me get him on a probiotic. As soon as
Mhm.
he started establishing routine of taking the probiotic daily,
Mhm.
he is so much better. Like I don't, it's his stomach issue
Overnight.
over yeah, overnight. It was
Kids
insane.
heal so quicker, so
Yes.
much quicker than adults do, especially when they start probiotics. And you pick a good quality probiotic. So that makes a
Yes.
difference too. So I'm happy that you started. And that's a thing that most people get intimidated by. Like their gut is messed up. They don't even know where to start. And it's as simple as adding a probiotic. And you just got to start slow because you can have detox reactions. So good for you, Mother Intuition, for doing the probiotic off the bat.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, kids' health, I swear they can get healthy so fast. It's us adults that tend to take a little bit longer, but that's okay. We still can get
Yes.
healthy. We can still do it.
Yes.
Yeah, can you just go ahead and break down what the gut-brain axis is and how it affects everything from our mood to our hormones?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have something called the gut-brain axis. It's exactly what it sounds like. Our gut affects our brain, and our brain can affect our gut. So to put this into action for people, say that you are going on stage. You're nervous, you're anxious. All of a sudden, your thoughts are now causing physical changes in your body. You're nauseous, you're shaky, you're sweating, your heart rate is going up. So very tied together, that whole butterflies in your belly. It makes that connection real for people. The other way around, I mean, and I'm speaking for myself, when I had my bloating issues and I would eat something that made me bloat, or back then it was drinking water, I would instantly feel irritable. I would be moody. My memory would go. I'd have short term memory issues. And that just goes to show that we have the signaling system that goes on. Now, we know that our gut has its own brain and it affects the way that we make neurotransmitters. Those are how our brain communicates. And so it also affects our hormonal system, which impacts our mood and energy, and it affects our digestion. So when it comes to the gut brain, the most important thing we need to understand is that 95% of our serotonin is made in our gut. That's our happy hormone, and it's released by our gut cells. And so, depending on the type of bacteria that's there, will impact what neurotransmitters are made or not made. So, very connected that what you eat and how you live can affect your gut, and that can in turn affect your brain. In fact, I'm going to throw one statistic out at you that there was a study that was done and they looked at IBS patients and they wanted to see what is the incidence of mental health conditions in patients with IBS. They looked at 79 different papers and this came out in about 2019. And they found out that the patients with IBS are 3 times more likely to have anxiety and 3 times more likely to have depression. So we know there's a link here. The research is showing it. On the flip side, there was a study done on nurses. Imagine you're a nurse in your third or fourth year of school and you're super stressed out. You're studying, you're on your college campus. They wanted to see, does taking a probiotic help their mood? Now, these women did not have any mental health diagnoses. They were just going through life stressed. And they found out that after 4 weeks of taking a probiotic, their moods got better. They had more motivation, they had more vigor, and they were happier. So, what this tells us is you don't have to have a mental health condition to get mood benefits from taking a probiotic. Anybody can take it and see just an elevation, and you're already great mood. So, that's exciting to see too. So, we're seeing both things here. If there's a problem, it goes worse, and you can also help it get better with probiotics. Again, proving there is a connection between the gut and the brain.
Yes, and I'm not sure if you're supposed to say this or if you can, but what is the best probiotic that you know of?
Yeah, this
That
is
way
a
I
great
can get one
question.
for myself.
Yeah, this is a great question. So you have to understand that there's many different strains of probiotics and they're on the label on the back in the little chart. And so you can classify these into 3 different categories. Okay. So there are 2 categories that I really like. And the one category is called a spore-based probiotic. And that category, their family begins with the word bacillus. Now, here's the thing. You're not going to find spore-based probiotics often or commonly on your pharmacy store shelves or in your local vitamin shop. Generally, you need to buy these from a professional source or maybe from a doctor because they're not available that way. They're very potent and they're very strong. And so it should be used under the care of a practitioner so that you can be monitored appropriately, make sure you're responding appropriately. Because a little bit goes a long way. But if you find a spore-based probiotic, my favorite brand that I love is called Megaspore Biotics, and it is from a company called Microbiome Labs. And it's only got 4 billion, billions is how we measure the amount of bacteria in the product. And so 4 billion sounds really, it does sound like a lot, but 4 is low in comparison to some other brands that are out there. But that's all you need. A little bit goes a long way. So that's my favorite one. And I find is the missing piece in all of my patients' care when they come to me. A lot of people will say, I'm taking a probiotic. And I'll say, oh no, but are you taking this one? And it's usually the missing piece. So that's a big one, is a spore-based probiotic. The next family that I really, really love, and it has the most research for it, is something called the Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus families. Generally, you'll find these in combination together, and you will be able to find these on pharmacy store shelves. Now, those are amazing because you can also find those in foods. So things like fermented yogurt or kefir, which is basically a liquid yogurt. And then you can also find it in sauerkraut and kimchi and other fermented vegetables. That's naturally where they live. But most people aren't eating those things every day. And a lot of people can't tolerate dairy. So this becomes a challenge to get this in the day-to-day diet. And this is where supplements come in. So that's where you can find the Lactobacillus bifidobacterium. But I would caution that when you're purchasing at a pharmacy, the question that you have to have is quality. When was that packaged product? How long was it sitting there? What capsule is it in? Because there are capsules that release in the stomach and other capsules that release in the small intestine. And you want the ones that have a delayed release and they release in the small intestine, because that means it's going to be more likely to get to the site of action and not be killed off. So those are my two favorites. And again, the Megaspore and the Spore Biotics are the missing piece in most people's protocols.
Yes, this is stuff I did not know, so I will be looking at that for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and talk about alcohol. Now, as someone who supports women in their sobriety, I'm actually curious, like, how does alcohol affect health in the microbiome, especially for us women? And what actually happens to the gut when we drink alcohol regularly?
Yes, this is a great question. So, probably the biggest thing when it comes to gut health, alcohol, in the way that it affects gut health, is it causes something called leaky gut syndrome. Are you familiar with leaky gut syndrome?
Dr. Gundry had a product a long time ago, I think, that I used to take for leaky gut. I don't even know if I had leaky gut, though, to be honest.
Well, check your pulse. If you have a pulse, you probably have leaky gut.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately, it's a very common condition. And so, leaky gut, for listeners who don't know what that is, it is basically what it sounds like. The barrier in your GI tract is leaky. And so, it lets things into the bloodstream that probably should have stayed out and been excreted in your stool. So things like undigested foods, bacteria byproducts, or even bacteria themselves, chunks of food, stool, things that would, when it gets into your bloodstream, it will cause a lot of irritation and trigger inflammation. And when your gut's inflamed and when your body's inflamed, your brain is inflamed. So alcohol will cause this leaky gut and increase inflammation. And this can really worsen anxiety, depression, brain fog, and even cause cravings. And this is just like a vicious cycle of like damage, crash, more drinking, damage, crash. And I'll have to point here too, one of the things that alcohol does is it stops your production of sugar in your liver. So what that means is your blood sugar could drop shortly after drinking alcohol if you're not eating. But this is also why some people, when they drink a couple hours later, a little bit later, they're going, oh my God, I have the munchies. I'm hungry. I want a snack. I want to eat. And that's because your body has a hard time managing its own blood sugar at that time because alcohol turned it off. And now you need to eat something in order to fix your own blood sugar so that you don't crash. But what happens when our blood sugar crashes or goes too low is that it releases cortisol and adrenaline and even something called epinephrine, which is your fight or flight. This activates you. This is where people become aggressive. They become irritable. They become anxious. They become angry. It's because these hormones try to come in to fix the blood sugar picture, but at the same time, they're causing the brain effects of causing more anxiety and issues. So alcohol has that secondary effect of affecting your brain health. And then the other thing that we can think about alcohol is it causes nutrient depletion. So in order to break down the alcohol and eliminate it properly through your liver, you need a lot of B vitamins, you need some protein, some zinc, some magnesium. You also end up urinating a lot. Think about how much liquid you're drinking in that time frame of having alcohol. Yes, alcohol can be a diuretic, but you have to think about the volume of liquid you're drinking in that hour or two that yes, you're going to urinate very quickly if you don't need it. So you end up excreting a lot of minerals. So things like the zinc and the magnesium, those are things that end up getting lost. And so we want to make sure that you're eating properly, taking some multivitamins. If you're drinking alcohol, you have to be smart around how you're ingesting it.
Yes, and speaking about the gut and the stomach and the pancreas. So my wake up call, because I was drinking heavily, I was drinking a fifth of vodka a day in order for me
Wow.
to function. That
Yeah.
includes driving, that includes going to work. It was dependency, and if I stopped all of a sudden, I would probably die because I mean I need a detox, like a medical detox,
Yeah.
and it was I think, yeah. It was like a surrendering moment for me when I had to like say, I need help. I cannot do this alone to my higher power. And then 2 weeks later, I wound up in the hospital. And then they did all these tests on me, EKG, blood tests, everything. And they finally did a CAT scan and they're like, oh, you have pancreatitis.
Mm.
And then that was the most excruciating pain I've ever had in my life, like almost, if not worse than labor pain. That pain was so strong and so bad. And I had to be there at the hospital for a week. And that's when I finally said, oh, this is the perfect opportunity for me to go ahead and stay sober because I'm medically detox. And that was my turning point. I had that experience with pancreatitis because all the alcohol, it ruined it. And so
Mhm.
it got inflamed and oh, it was just horrible. And anyway, I thought I'd just share that with you.
Yeah, no, it's an important piece. You hit your rock bottom to make the change. And you're right,
Right.
pancreatitis is a very, very debilitating pain. And so yeah, it can shut off. It changes the bacterial population in there too. And that could affect the way that you release enzymes properly. So then everything gets backed up if you're not. And then you also have to think about were you eating properly? Were you skipping meals
Oh,
and
yeah.
all of those things come into factor there when it comes to your pancreas and alcohol.
Yeah, I don't think I was eating. It was just drinking. I barely
Yeah.
ate anything and I just couldn't keep anything down. Everything was just coming out, coming out, coming out. And I was like, why am I throwing up constantly? And well, because you're sick, Gina. That's why you need help
Yeah.
because you're sick. you know. But there's also a lot of talk about brain fog, anxiety, and depression. Do you actually go ahead and see a strong link between gut imbalances or even alcohol use and with these mental health struggles? And what are some, perhaps maybe you can share some gentle, like first steps someone can go ahead and take to begin healing that connection?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, when we talk about gut health and affecting your brain health, I absolutely in my office have seen patients with anxiety, difficulty thinking, brain fog, word recall. We call it a word salad. Sometimes they just mess up and they can't find the right word. That all improves when we start to fix the gut. And that's amazing because I'm not even targeting the brain. I'm targeting the gut, but we're seeing these benefits. And so know that you can make some changes and it can happen within days of changing what you're eating, the supplements that you're taking, and how you're sleeping and just your other lifestyle factors. So, for people who are interested in getting started, there's two questions that I want to ask you that'll help us delineate where we should go. So, ask yourself, do I bloat with specific vegetables? And you're going to be the type of person that goes, yep, I can't have broccoli. I can't have this. I can't have garlic. You know that there's certain things that trigger you. Then there's another group of people that'll say, I bloat, but I'm not really sure. But I know that I bloat when I eat carbs or sugar. Okay, so those are two different gut imbalances, and they both can be approached differently. So let's start with the first scenario where certain vegetables trigger you to have symptoms. So if you're that person, you want to follow something called a low FODMAP diet. And it is a specific diet that avoids vegetables that contain certain fibers. And these are fibers that some people have a hard time breaking down because they don't have the right bacteria. And instead, the wrong bacteria are breaking it down. And that's what's causing the gas, the belching, the bloating, and all of those uncomfortable abdominal pain symptoms you might be having. So, low FODMAP for about 4 weeks. It's a pretty strict diet, but you're going to start to starve out a lot of the bad bacteria. And that's what we want. We want them to calm down, and we want to be able to have your gut relax a little bit. At the same time that you're doing this, I want you to eat more soups and stews. So, soups and stews are much easier to digest. Okay. And including in that is having soups and stews made with an animal broth. It's because when we think about broth, let's use chicken broth as an example. We're putting the carcass in water and we're boiling it for a certain period of time. And we're basically the parts of the animal that are not digestible, we can't chew the cartilage or the spine or the bones, but rather we're going to boil them in water. The nutrients release in the water, and then we drink the broth, and we're getting the nutrients that we need to heal our own gut lining. Things like collagen, specific proteins, lots of minerals, all the things we need to heal our gut. So we're eating an easier to digest food. We're getting nutrients needed to heal our gut with soups and stews. And so that's going to repair that leaky gut that we're all worried about. Okay, so those are the two things that you can do right off the bat for about 3 to 4 weeks. And we're going to see how your symptoms improve. If you start a low FODMAP diet and you're bloating and your gas and belching and all that stuff does not get better, this tells me that you may have an overgrowth of bacteria, but you more likely have an overgrowth of candida or fungus. And because they respond to carbs and to sugar. So you tend to feel worse when you eat those foods. And it might not even just be, you know, I'm talking about gut symptoms, but this could be impacting your brain. You, like I said, the brain fog, the sleep issues, the weight, if you can't lose weight. You have to start looking at your whole day to day, not just your gut, about what you're feeling when you try these diets out. So if you feel like the low FODMAP's not working, then you need to go on a lower sugar, lower carbohydrate lifestyle. And really, we have to avoid things made from flour, anything that's white. Okay. This tends to be the grain family. So wheat, gluten, rice, oats, corn. Those are the things that you really want to avoid. But if you're getting your carbs from a piece of fruit or maybe a little bit of a sweet potato, you can still have those things. It just can't be at every single meal. Okay. So you don't have to be totally deprived, but lowering your sugar intake will help bring that candida and fungus population down. So we talked about the two diets, and now what can you do supplement wise? So during these first 4 weeks, strongly recommend adding a probiotic. The whole approach and the goal of adding a probiotic is you want to bring in the good guys and say, hey, come in, help me out. We're going to try and overcrowd the bad guys and eliminate them. And so taking a probiotic is important, finding a good quality over-the-counter brand that has the lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. My favorite brand I'd always love to mention is called, it's made by a company called Designs for Health, and it's a product called Probiomed 50. They also make a children's version, which is a chewable tablet, and they make an infant formula, which is a powder, so easy to administer. So I love that. The reason why I love Probiomed is because earlier I had mentioned that delayed release capsule, and that's very important. So we want them to survive the stomach, and this gives it the best chance of doing so. So taking a probiotic is important, but I will say that for a lot of people, when they start to take a probiotic, they probably feel unwell. Just things are changing too quickly. There's a lot of trash coming out. We call it a die-off reaction. If that happens, some people go, this probiotic's not working. It's making me feel worse. I want you to take a step back and say, nope, this is the direction I'm actually supposed to go in. I just need to go a little bit slower. So whatever you're currently doing, if you're taking it once a day, now maybe you're going to take it twice a week. Okay, you're going to stop it actually for a little bit. Wait till you feel back to your baseline, and then maybe start it twice a week. Once you make it past that first week and you feel okay, then maybe you'll go to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then once you feel good that next week, week 3, now maybe you're going to try and take it every single day. But you're going to work yourself up to being able to tolerate it so that you can start to bring in the good guys. So slow and steady wins the race. You're not going to fix things overnight. It's going to take about 2, 3, 4 months of consistency with probiotics to really see a huge shift. But you got to start somewhere. So don't give up. So, and then if you can find a spore-based probiotic, that would be the thing to do. So just to summarize, you're changing your diet for a couple weeks. You're going to take a probiotic so that you can start bringing in the good guys, and you're going to be healing your gut along the way and helping reducing symptoms right away.
Yes, my husband needs to listen to this episode because he gives up so easily because I'm like, oh, take this probiotic. You're going to get better because he suffers from IBS and he thought he had hemorrhoids for the longest time. And when he went to go get it checked, he's like, no, you don't have hemorrhoids. And so
Oh,
it was so interesting. They're like, oh, just take Metamucil every day for the rest of your life. I'm like, is that even safe? And so, but he was on a probiotic and I he stopped because he's like, I don't see any changes. I'm like, don't give up,
Yeah.
don't give up. But yeah,
Yeah,
so it
this
takes
is a
about 4 months.
great point. I'm really happy you brought this up. So, how do you know your probiotic is working? That's the big question we want to
Yeah.
ask here. You should feel better. You should start to feel like you're heading in the right direction within about 3 to 4 weeks of starting the product. If you feel the exact same from when you started the item, then I start to question the quality of the probiotic that you're taking. Does it really have in the bottle what it says on the label, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of fraud and things that are kind of going on with some of these products. So sell my supplements on a company through called Full Script. It's a dispensary you can order online, ships to your house. But people who have medical licenses and are professionals in the health industry are able to get accounts here, and everything is third party tested. So we know that what's on the label is actually in the pill. So it's just a safer way. There's a lot of fraud that's happening on Amazon, a lot of counterfeit supplements that are happening, and you can put bottles side by side from Amazon, and you can see, oh, wow, the font's just slightly different or the color's a little bit off from the actual real product. So you have to be careful about your supplements. So that's the first thing I question is the quality of the product. And the next thing that I would look at is try taking your supplement on an empty stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when we eat, like I said, we want to make it survive. And if we're taking our supplement with food, now we're kind of throwing it in the mix when we're releasing enzymes, we're making more stomach acid. So we can actually lower the amount of probiotic that can be absorbed into the GI tract. So try taking it on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, maybe right before bed. And then I would wait at least 30 minutes before you decide to eat something.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell him that. Hopefully he
Yeah.
listens.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and shift and talk about fertility, motherhood, and of course, hormonal recovery.
Yeah.
This is a fun topic right now for me. For
We're both in it right now.
I know we're both in it right now. And yeah, so for women who are actually listening, who are thinking about having children or even maybe struggling to conceive,
Mhm.
w- what role does gut health, hormones, and past lifestyle choices like alcohol and poor nutrition actually play in fertility?
Yeah, great question. So, currently, what we're seeing is that your gut health impacts your feminine microbiome, which is everything down below, all your lady parts down there. And so we know this because we've taken stool samples of women and seen that if they carry a particular infection down there, so say they tend to have something called bacterial vaginosis, which is the fishy odor, the discharge, all of that. We also see that show up in stool tests. So your gut health can impact your feminine microbiome. And it's because of the location. Everything's close together. Some women wear underwear or panties that are thongs. It's like a little bridge, it's a highway system from something to travel from your anal opening over to the vaginal opening. And so we have to be careful. So, this is to answer the question, how does probiotics, taking them orally, help your vaginal health? It absolutely does. So, we know that when we study also the feminine microbiome, the bacteria that lives there matches 32% of what's in the gut. So there's some overlap there. So, one thing that we see is if you're having trouble getting pregnant, the one thing to ask yourself is, have you ever had a vaginal microbiome test? So, this is a new thing that's kind of been making some light in recent research. And it is under tested right now. So if you go to a fertility clinic because you're having trouble getting pregnant, they're not going to run these tests on you. But what we're finding in the latest research is that who and what is in our feminine microbiome plays a big role in if you get pregnant, how quickly you get pregnant, if you're likely to have a miscarriage, if you'll deliver before 37 weeks, which is considered preterm. And then also for people in the IVF space, if you're having in vitro fertilization, how will it impact your ability to implant and to miscarry and all of those conditions? And when you're spending 15,000 to 20,000 a month on IVF, getting a vaginal microbiome test, which is about the cost of $250, you can understand what is the environment below and how that's going to impact your chances of getting pregnant and staying pregnant. So, have you ever heard of this vaginal microbiome test?
Never heard of it before. This
Okay.
is all new to me.
Yeah, this is the latest research. I have three friends going through fertility, and when I ask them about this, their doctors are not even talking about it. And the
Mm.
question becomes, why does it even matter? Well, let's think of your house. Say you have a house and you have a bunch of security guards standing in front of it. The security guard's job is to keep out who's not supposed to be there. It's going to check everybody who comes in and out. It's going to make sure the peace is happening. Everyone's respecting the property and taking care of the house. So when we connect that to the feminine microbiome, the security guards are a group of bacteria called lactobacillus. And so when that population comes down, lactobacillus goes down, and we'll talk about what causes that in a second. When lactobacillus come down, now it allows for the wrong microbes to come into the picture. This is where candida comes in, itch, discharge, odor, bacterial vaginosis, things like UTIs. The wrong bacteria now have a beautiful environment. They have resources and space to grow. And so what this does is they're going to come in and they're going to start trashing the place. They're going to start eating what they're not supposed to eat. They're not going to clean up. It's going to become odorous. It's going to be painful. And so this becomes a hostile environment. So if you're trying to put a baby in that environment, you don't want to raise your baby in a house that's trashed and smelly and has some inflammation and smoking and all these other issues are going on. So we're starting to understand that this intricate bacterial population and micropopulation plays a role in the inflammation that can occur down below and whether or not you can get pregnant or stay pregnant.
Oh, wow. Again, things that I didn't know.
Most people don't, but I'm so excited to be sharing this with your listeners because I think it's an overlooked and missed topic. And when you think about infertility, it's affecting 1 in 6 couples worldwide. And
Right.
so that's a lot of people. I know 3 just in my personal circle of women who've had difficulties with miscarriage and getting
Yeah.
pregnant. So this is a serious topic, and this could be a missing piece that doctors aren't looking at, and they're not going to look at it right now. It's not a part of their protocols. It's not something insurance covers. So
Right.
patients need to be their own advocate here. And you can order this test online without a doctor's prescription on your own right now. You can take it at home. You'll get the results back in 3 weeks, and then you can connect with a practitioner like myself or somebody else who's holistic, who understands this, who can help you repair that, and you can fix things up in a matter of 2 months. It's that
Oh,
quick.
wow. 2 months.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's that quick.
Oh, that's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also postpartum is such a vulnerable time for us mommies. I know for myself, my first son, I had a case of what was called the baby blues. I was
Yeah.
just like, I don't know, maybe lack of sleep because he was born at 3:07 a.m. and I was in labor for a long time. And then of course,
Yeah.
once baby is born, you can't sleep because you just want to love your bundle of joy up so much. But
Yes.
my question is this, what gut or hormonal shifts do you actually see in new moms? Because I was going through it. Like I was going through it really bad with him when coming, even like coming home.
Hmm.
What are some supportive things they can go ahead and do in the early months to go ahead and restore that balance?
Yeah. So, I mean, number one is, I mean, sleep is important, but we know that that's not going to be a part of the picture. So, the next thing that you can do is take your probiotics. I mentioned that study earlier that people who even had normal mood had better mood when they took a probiotic. So, this is kind of like a little bit of insurance that you can have on board with you while you're going through your changes. The next thing is to eat a nutritious diet. Now, I know that's hard as a new mom, but this is where you got to reach out to your circle of people, your community. You're going to pre-make some food before you deliver, put it in the freezer, have a meal delivery service or hire a postpartum doula who can help you,
Oh,
that can give you support or even watch the baby for a couple of hours so you can take a good night's sleep, right? So there's support that you can request and ask for. And I strongly encourage you. It doesn't mean that you're a weak woman or that you can't do it. We have this pride that we wear as women that we can do it all. And sometimes we need a little bit of help, right? So making sure that you're feeding yourself appropriately, whether you can do it on your own or you ask for somebody else to come in and help you, that's going to be super important. And so eating the rainbow of vegetables is amazing because you need to be feeding your good microbes and they love the rainbow every day. So think of more vegetables and fruits, but all of it is important as long as you're getting it in is actually the most important. And then if you can eat yogurt or kefir or sauerkraut or fermented vegetables, those are the things that are going to give you probiotics from your diet. And if you can find a way to eat them every day, 1 or 2 or 3 tablespoons, add it to your vegetables, put it into your salads, eat it just by itself. You can find ways to incorporate it into your lifestyle. So properly feeding yourself is important. And I would continue to take your prenatal and continue to take your omega 3s. There is data to show that omega-3 supplements, which is the fish oils, they can actually support and help with depression. Now, the doses are really high in those studies, that we're talking about 6 grams a day, which is a lot. And if you look at a fish oil pill, sometimes you need to take about 2 or 3 pills to even get 1 gram. So, just making sure you're taking something. I'm not asking you to take 6, but you can take a couple of pills per day. In addition to taking it as a supplement, you can get it in your food supply. So, salmon and shrimp, any of those cold water fish are the best sources of fish oil. So, those are the 3 things: is making sure you're getting your basic nutrients. I would take some probiotics, and when you can get some sleep, ask for it. I know when I had my first child, I had either my mother-in-law or my mother sleep over one night a week. And I just needed that one night to just get like a solid 5, 6 hours uninterrupted. And that made a huge difference in my energy levels and the way that I could make milk and the way that I could support my mood and be a better partner to my wife. I mean, better partner to my husband during that time. So there's a lot of things that we can do. But I want you to kind of reflect on when you were postpartum and you had the baby blues. Of all the things that I just mentioned, any of that say, wow, I could have done that better, or I didn't try that? What stands out to you when you can relate to your own story?
All of the above I wasn't doing. I don't think
Yeah.
I wasn't eating well. I wasn't sleeping well. Even
Yeah.
when my mom was over, I was paranoid. Like, I don't know. I was just paranoid, like something was going to happen to the baby. I don't know. I
Oh,
don't
there's
know.
definitely a trust issue. I get that for sure.
And so, but yeah, I think now that, I mean, that was 17 years ago, by the
Mhm.
way.
Yeah,
My firstborn is 17 now.
you got
And
amazing.
and so, but now that I am more seasoned mother, I am going to be taking that rest, and I do trust my mom.
Yeah, good.
And I'd be like, please take the baby. And yes,
Yeah,
my husband's going to be taking some time off from work, and so he's there to help as well. And I
yeah.
mean, I eat much better than I used to. I mean, there's been a lot of growth since 2008.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of easy food products out there now that can help you get there.
But I will take a probiotic. That's the
Yes.
thing. I was taking a probiotic every day and I was feeling amazing. And then I stopped. I don't know why. I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe I thought I was too gassy or something.
Yeah. Well, when you start it back up, reach out to me because I'd love to support you through that.
Yes,
Because I think it's an
absolutely.
important piece, and we have to talk about too. Some women have C-sections, and then the doctors will give them IV antibiotics, just precautionary
Yes, I
before the
did.
procedure. And then you also have women who have positive, they test positive for group B strep. Right? So they also administer an antibiotic to the mother right before the baby's delivered. Antibiotics are probably the most detrimental things that you can take for your gut health. Even one dose is shown to decimate the entire gut population. And the ones that are the most sensitive are the lactobacillus and the bifidobacterium that we talked about, which are so important for our health. So those get wiped out. So you end up, if you have to take an antibiotic, even if it's one dose, don't underestimate that. I want you to treat that as I just took a full course. I need to correct this. You're going to commit to taking probiotics for at least 3 months every single day, once a day. And I would love to see you on both of those families that we discussed in this podcast, because that's just going to give you the well rounded approach. And they're the top ones that have been studied in research to help all sorts of things like the anxiety, depression. PCOS is a hormonal condition, and probiotics have been shown to help that. It helps your blood work, your cholesterol. There's a lot of research coming out, but most studies show that you have to take the probiotics for about 2 to 3 months in order to see the full impact of change. So if you're getting some benefits in the first month, you're on the right track. Keep going. And then at 3 months, you reevaluate. Am I still getting improvements at this 3 month mark? Maybe you should continue, take it for another month. And when you start to stall and you say, oh, I've been pretty good, nothing's been bothering me, my belly's okay, my brain's okay, maybe you don't need the probiotic every day. Maybe at that point you move to 3 times a week just to keep dropping them in, because life happens. We're going to fall off the bandwagon. We're going to be exposed to antibiotics in our meat supply. We're going to be drinking tap water, which has chlorine. It's another type of an antibiotic in a different form, right? It kills the wrong microbes. Then you also have to think about preservatives in foods, another word for an antibiotic. So life happens. You're going to be eating at other people's houses. You're not going to be eating always organic. And so your gut health is always under a little bit of attack. So we need to constantly stay on it so that we can maintain it through our lives. So dropping it in 3 times a week is perfect.
Speaking about tap water, my plants hate it. They're turning color now. I'm like, no, what am I doing wrong? And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? It has to be the tap water. Like my
Yep.
my gut told me, my
Exactly.
intuition
See? That's amazing.
told me that no tap water for your plants, Gina. So I'm doing the switcheroo.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting? I'm going to throw another fun fact out. Tap water, the way that the cities and townships manage it, they're following guidelines that were created back in 1974.
Wow.
So it is outdated, and we have way more chemicals on the market and way more prescriptions on the market now that are getting into our tap water. And I want you to think about it, how many people are using these heavy duty cleaners where they're washing their paint brushes in the sink and it's going in the municipal water supply? So it's up to us to manage our own water. So 100% the bare minimum, get a Brita filter, get a zero water filter. They're cost effective and affordable. The best is an RO filter. That's going to remove most of the chemicals and the prescriptions out of your medicine and pesticides out. So I'm happy you brought that up. Your plants don't like it and they're showing you. And guess what? Our bodies over time eventually tell us too. It's just a slower kind of a delivery. Our body is a little slower to tell us when tap water is not the greatest thing.
It's so funny because my husband will get some grapes and wash them. And I ask him, which water did you rinse it with? And he'll
You
say
could
tap
tell.
water, and I'm like, oh no, thank you. I don't want it. I don't want
You could
it.
tell. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's
I'm like,
amazing.
no, no, thanks, no, thanks. And even, as mothers with babies, once they're crawling on the floor, because we're cleaning the floor with that water with chemical, they have to be
Yeah.
careful because they're what do they do? Are they crawling? And then of course they're teething, so they're going to put their hands in their mouth, and then
Yeah.
it gets
Yeah.
transferred to them. So I'm being extra cautious now with everything that's going on in my surroundings and my environment, everything, because I want to make sure our family stays healthy.
Yeah, you're doing the greatest thing. Yeah, and that's the one thing that makes most people wake up is when they have a kid and they say, "I don't want to put that chemical on them. I don't want to use this
Right.
chemical in my house." But I'm happy that people are waking up because the kids are our future generation, and right now things are not looking very good for their trajectory. So the more that we can step in to get rid of these chemicals, the better they will be, the healthier they will be, and they can live longer than we ever will.
Right. Wow. Dr. Loredana, thank you so much for being on my show. I would love for you just to go ahead and share how people can connect with you.
Yeah, amazing. Well, so thank you for having me. This was a great discussion. And so you can find me on my website, so lifemodsolutions.com. Anyone is open to scheduling a 15-minute phone consult with me. If you're curious about what I do and if I could actually help you, schedule that call. It's free. I can also would love to offer your listeners a little gift. So if you schedule an initial consultation with me, which is about an hour and a half long, I will give your listeners 50% off. So we can include that in your episode description notes so they can have access to that. And I'll also put a link to my supplement where you can order trusted supplements because I really do think this is an under appreciated issue. And supplements are important for changing our lives because our diets aren't so perfect. So Life Mod Solutions is my Instagram, my YouTube, my TikTok. You can find me on all big platforms of social media. So check me out.
Amazing. Well, any last words or anything else you'd like to share before we sign off?
Yeah, my final words are you can heal at any age, no matter how long that you've been dealing with your condition. I've seen it in my office, miracles that most doctors gave up on. And so if you're feeling lost, if you're struggling, if you've never tried fixing your gut health or a holistic health practitioner in functional medicine, that's your next step because you can see healing however you are, wherever you are.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on my show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day.